Hey, what's up guys, Joshua Boost here and welcome back to a One Piece card game gameplay video. Today I have the finals from locals that we had this weekend, which was, I think it was like 29 people actually, so quite a bit locals, and this was round 5. Between on the left we have Benjamin, who is playing the green-purple Doflamingo deck. Which I think he's been playing for a while because I also played him last week at the Store Championship. And then on the right, it's actually myself, just on the Zoro deck. I was considering playing Isho, but then, Zoro is just very, very strong, which it proved once again here, I think, getting to the finals. I really think this matchup is pretty interesting, since Zoro usually does very well into slower decks, which Doflamingo definitely is. However, Doflamingo has the built-in parentheses, protection with the events and stuff, which definitely makes the matchup a little bit better, and it's also playing a lot of blockers as well as the 10-drop Dofi. But yeah, getting into the game, I lost the die roll, we both mulligan I think, and I just have to pass turn on turn 1, which is definitely not something you would like to see in Zoro, but it's not technically the worst. If you have something like that done, it's fine. And we actually see Dofi start with Buenos Vesta here, which picks up the 7-drop Luffy, and then he actually plays another Buena Vesta, so definitely pretty strong start to get to all his combo pieces, to combo with the Luffy specifically, which is very nice, even though he does sacrifice 2k counters from his hand, and he picks up the Uta, which is definitely very strong in this matchup, like I mentioned before. Then, passing the turn to me, I actually swing in, and he takes it right away, and now I'm gonna be following it up with Dadan. And the reason I swing first, of course, because I don't want to get punished by something like Punk Gibson in life. And I actually pick up arguably the best card here, which is Gordon. Like, yeah, Searcher would be nice, but playing the Gordon now sets up for Marco to get rid of his 4 or 3 drop on the next turn, which is very strong. Even though, yeah, it can definitely get punished by playing Sugar, but if he does that, he's behind Sword out 1 turn, so that's fine. But he swings in for 5 here and then plays the Nami for 3 and uses his remaining down to use the search ability. So he's just definitely digging very hard to his combo pieces. And he picks up another Uta here. Adds it to the hand. And then passes to me after putting 2 down active, of course. So I go to 5 down, and I already mentioned it, but yeah, the Gordon is gonna reduce the Nami here. And then use the 5 down to play out the 5-drop Marco and get rid of the Nami, which was at 2k, to prevent him from getting any more searches on the next turn. And then when I swing in with 5, he pitches a Brook, because of course he doesn't want to get low on life this early in the game, because that's pretty much my win condition, right? Really decide the game before we get to the late game, because the Doffy deck is definitely way better in the late game than the Zoro deck is. So in games like this, you really want to just finish off the game as quick as possible, and Benjamin seems to be very aware of that. Yeah, he's going in for 7 now with Dofi, which I'm gonna take. Not gonna waste 2 cards to, counter this attack. And then he's gonna play out the Uta, which now makes the game state kind of interesting, because now when I attack, he can use the Uta blocker ability to, let's say I attack with Marco first, because I don't want that to get arrested. He can rest the Dadan and then run over the Dadan on the next turn. However, I do think a little bit here to see what I want to do, and to consider the options with the Uta, how I want to play into it. But I fear eventually that if he does use the ability from Uta to rest something on my side, that's perfectly fine, because that means that he will be on his 10-drop turn 1 turn later, because he will then be on the uneven curve, which I think is perfectly fine. So I kind of want him to do that actually. So I play a Hauta here, which is a very good aggro card, of course, and then use Hauta ability to put the Dom on the Zoro, swing of 7, and he decides not to block with Uta and just take the attack. And now when I swing in with 6, he's going to counter with the 2k chopper counter, and then with the remaining 5, so I'm going to play another Marco. So really upping that pressure here. Getting me to multiple big swings on the next turn, possibly. He didn't use his Uta yet, which I definitely think is correct. Like I said, he probably has the Duffy in hand, and if he does, then you definitely want to be dropping that Duffy as soon as possible, like on your turn 5. But yeah, now it's his time to think. Of course, we know he does have the Luffy in hand, So potentially ideal, I think, would be to swing like 5-5 and then go Luffy, play out Nami and use the Nami Surge with Adon, I think. He's gonna swing in with Doffy, which I counter with Jozu, because I don't want to get too low in life either, because late game he's gonna have multiple really big units and then it will get really hard to counter out. He swings in with the Utai here and I take it. I think I actually had to, because the counts in my hand were like Makino or something. I didn't really want to use that to counter here. And then, like I said, he's going to go the Luffy into Nami, which is definitely very, very strong for the Adon turn. Once again, he's gonna check out what he's gonna pick up here. And he adds another Brook, which will probably be used as a 1k counter at some point, I imagine. Now it's my 9 Dawn turn, and this is also like an interesting turn, because at this point it's gonna kind of decide how hard I play into the 10-drop Doffy, which, like, admittedly Zoro is kind of not the worst against the 10-drop Doffy, but you do have to have access to rush cards, and in my current list I'm only playing 2 rush cards, and I don't believe I had any in my hand, so eventually I decide to go play out the Buggy. And I actually think I was also looking for the Fire Fist here to be able to get rid of his Uta and Nami, because I did have Otama in hand. And I'm playing 4 Fire Fists and I didn't see any yet, if I remember correctly. So it's like, the odds are like in my favor to get to it. But yeah, now I'm gonna go Hauta, put it down under Zoro and swinging with 7 from the Marco. He still has 2 lives, so he's not in that bad of a position. So if he wants to, we can go, at least for one of the attacks, go like Luffy and a counter. But he decides to just take it here. Gonna swing with the other Marco. And he is actually going to... Like I said, it's a bit weird to use the Luffy block, because you're always kind of scared of being punished by something like Gordon or Uta. But he decides to go for it here and use the Brook as a counter, like I said. And now... Let's see... There is the option to go like aggro with all my guys, or like at least with Hauta and Danon as well. But I probably want to keep the Hauta, so I'm gonna swing in with Danon for 7 as well here, to hopefully force out, like, he still has 2 Dawn open and he hasn't played any event yet, so the odds of him having an event are pretty realistic. And he does use the event here to actually punk Gibson the Hauta, which is a little bit annoying. And now I'm just gonna do have 5 Dawn left here, I think, and I wanted to keep 4 Dawn for Uta into Fire Fist, if I remember correctly, and I think I'm considering here if I want to keep 1 Dawn open for a guard point I had in hand, if I remembered correctly. And I'm like, nah, he can't kill me next turn anyway, so I'm just gonna go, not do that and just put under pressure so I can attempt to finish the game next turn. Like, if he doesn't have a 10-drop Doffy, then it's gonna be relatively easy to do that, even if he does have, like, a second Luffy or something. But yeah, I do get rid of the Nami and the Uta here, because that's just a little bit too much pressure, and I specifically want to get rid of the Uta, because that's just gonna be a very annoying defensive card on the next turn. So yeah, he goes to 10 Dawn now. So this is basically where we find out if he's gonna be able to play the 10-drop Doffy or not. And what spoilers that is gonna happen. But he's definitely thinking about here for a little bit, considering his options, which is smart, right? Maybe it's not the best play, but to be fair, the Doffy here will be able to shut down like 2 Marcos and the leader, which I definitely think is extremely strong, leaving me with just Buggy and Otama to attack with if he also attempts to get rid of the Hauta. And he actually goes for that first, just swing leader over the Hauta. Then, yeah, for 10, play out the Doffy, which, if you're not familiar, it will allow him to basically stun 3 rested characters or leaders to prevent them from becoming active on the next turn. And then put the 2 Dawn active, and I do think he has like 7 cards in hand or something like this, so it's definitely not looking super good for me. And I'm also going to be thinking here for a little while to... consider what I want to do. I do still have 2 life left, but I only have 4 cards in hand, I think. And, there's always the possibility of him just going something like, let's say 10, 10, 12 or something to attempt to finish the game. And I'm actually quite sure that would have been game if he decided to try that at this moment. But it's not possible for me to finish out the game here. I mean, technically, if he has like no counters in hand, then maybe it's possible. But once again, my only attacks here are Otama and Buggy. And he also still has a blocker on the field as well. So I basically should be able to put up 2 attacks that finish the game. If I want to try that, which is definitely just not gonna work, right? If I do remember correctly, I do have another Marco in hand. So, playing that out will definitely put some pressure on him next turn. And then all I have to do is, not get killed on this turn. And then probably I should be able to at least have a game show, but it's not looking good at this moment, I want to say, because once again, he does have a lot of pressure, and if he does have like a follow-up with another 7-drop Luffy, as well as another, or maybe, not as well, because you can't play a 10-drop and a 7-drop in the same turn, of course, but if he has either the Luffy or another 10-drop, which would be the worst case scenario, of course, then I'm definitely in a very rough position. But yeah, I think I'm gonna make a play now, so yeah, I'm gonna play out the Izo, to dig for. Honestly, I just want to pick up like any counter, basically, preferably a Josu, but I do find Fiery Door here, which is definitely not something I wanted to see. I do play out the Izo here just to put up basically another attacker for the next turn, because even though Izo is small, you can make it big with something like Magra or Makino. And then I decide to go 5 Dawn for another Marco. And just not attack this turn and keep open 4 Dawn. Which is also partially like a bluff, because I really don't want him to attempt to go for a game here. And again, Zoro is always scary if they keep Dawn open, right? Because they are playing a lot of defensive events, usually, especially in this build. And yeah, just attacking with the Buggy here also seemed very lackluster. That was also an option, just put like all my Dawn on the Buggy and attack to bait out the block from the Luffy, but I don't think it would have worked. And then I also couldn't play the Marco because I put like 5 Dawn under the Buggy. Then he can very easily just go like block with the Luffy and use like one other card to counter, and that's just very bad value. And this way I have like 1.5 additional attackers next turn. Which is very relevant if he does have a follow-up in the form of another 10-drop Doflamingo, which is definitely something I had to consider a possibility. But yeah, we see him thinking for a bit again. Like I said, I think he has 7 cards in hand. Yeah, maybe he had 6 last turn, now he has 7, if I remember correctly. Anyway. But yeah, these are like the crucial turns, right? And he decides to swing in with the Dofi, and I do have to counter this attack, because if I don't, he can go for like 12, 15, and there's just like no way I'm gonna be able to counter that out. Or like 13, 14 or whatever. So he attacks with the 10-drop Dofi, which I just take. Like, there's no point in me attempting to counter. I don't even think I could have done it, to be honest. Then he plays a 10-drop. Once again, locking the leader and the Marco. And now my attackers are Izo, Buggy, and another Marco. And I do have to go for game here, because there is literally no way for me to survive the next turn. Potentially he can go for like 3 10k plus swings, and there's no way I'm going to be able to counter out 3 of those. So yeah, just starting by putting the Dawn under Zoro there. And once again, this is the crucial turn, so it's going to be kind of rough. But to be fair, like, depending on his hands, he's not 100% safe. I just have to think what's the best way to play through, like, an event, the Luffy block, as well as any potential counters he has in hand, which is, once again, that's very, very rough. And there's, like, multiple lines I can do here, but what I think I'm gonna do is just try to bait the Luffy block with the Marco, and then I do have Magura and Makino on hand, which I've had for a while, so I could go for a huge push. What I'm gonna do here is swing for 11, which is basically gonna force him to either use the block and some counters, or just use the block, or use at least 3 cards from his hand, which would be nice, because that means that he would be at 4 cards remaining, which would make the game a little bit more winnable, especially with the Magura and the what's it called, Magura and Makino. But the thing is, he has Hell's Judgment here, which is definitely very, very, very unfortunate, I want to say. I think that's... Thinking, nah, actually, like, I would have just lost to Punk Gibson here. I'm pretty sure, because then he could have stunned my Buggy or Izo. And then, you know, I definitely can't play through the blocker Luffy. But there's like also arguments. Let's say hypothetically had both to play the Hell's Judgment, because that's technically better if I do have a rush card. Because if I would have a rush card, I could potentially go like play out Magura or Makino to boost like one of the 1-drops, and then, you know, play out the Zoro as well. And swing 2 times for 7, I think. But yeah, the Hell's Judgment definitely very, very rough. Here, he reduced the Buggy, so the Buggy's now just 1k. And yeah, I'm asking to see his treasure, because I want to count how many 2k counts are in there. He has 3 cards left, I think, in his hand. And I already said I have Magura and Makino in my hand. So basically, again, there's no way to try to attempt to lift the next turn. So I have to try to go for game here. And eventually, my only win condition here is the best I can do with 2 swings, because I have to swing twice, because he has a blocker, is like one with 6k and one with 7k. So I basically just have to hope that he does only have 1k counter in his 3 card hand, and then I win the game. But if he has any more, then yeah, the game is definitely gonna be his. But yeah, I'm at this point still pondering about that, like what the line is. But eventually I'm like, yeah, okay, there is just no other way, and I just have to try it. So yeah, sack off the Marco, go for Magura to boost my Izo, which is gonna boost it up to 6. And remember, like, if I don't have access to a Makino or another Magura, the Boogie is gonna swing for 5 here at maximum. Or if I'm like lucky, I will have Red Zoro for 7, which would be that would be nice in the perfect world, but I do not have that. So I'm gonna swing with 6 here, and he's thinking, and I'm like, okay, if he counters this, then I just straight up lose. It's just over. So he thinks about this for a little bit. So yeah, lots of tension. Who's gonna win? It's gonna be Dofi. It's gonna be Zoro. This is basically the moment that decides the game. He actually goes for the blocks. I'm like, okay, maybe I win. I go play Makino, boost up the buggy to 4, put 3 down under it, make it 7, and yeah, this just if he counters this, then it's over. I lose the game. He has Sugar, and that's it. No Punk Gibson. He has the spider web, and yeah, that's the game. GG.